It's June 7th, 2013. We're in London for the men's final of Wimbledon, and the people here cannot contain their excitement. 3+ hours into a hot, punishing match, Andy Murray is serving for the championship against Novak Djokovic. It's a huge opportunity, but it's not the first time Murray's had this opportunity, and he, as much as anyone, understands how fast things can change. Before Murray puts this ball in play and maybe breaks the tension in this crowd, let's rewind. This video is presented by Stella Artois, a taste worth more. If you don't watch much men's tennis, I know what you're thinking. Where are the usual two guys? Isn't it always those two guys? Sort of, yeah. Every Wimbledon final since 2003 has featured at least one of what you might call the big two. 27-year-old Rafael Nadal and or 31-year-old Roger Federer. The last decade of Wimbledon winners goes Roger, 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 Rafa, Roger, Rafa, oops, Roger. Zoom out to view all 4 tennis majors from 2004 to 2010, Australian Open, French Open, Wimbledon, and US Open, and you'll see a whole lot of the big two with only the occasional oops. There's a stretch in the middle there where Nadal always won in Paris and Federer always won the other 3. It got repetitive. But then, here in early 2008 was a special one of those oopses. A 21-year-old from Serbia named Novak Djokovic, who'd broken out as Federer's runner-up in the 2007 US Open, went on to win the Aussie Open. And then right back to business as usual, only with a little more Nadal mixed in with all the Federer. That was how it remained for a while. This kid Djokovic could proudly count himself among the gaggle of one-off major champions, briefly disrupting the Rafa-Roger gridlock. But then came 2011. Djokovic won in Australia again. He won here in London, stopping the Big Two's longest-running hold on any major. And then Novak finished that 2011 major season with his first US Open trophy, completing 3/4 of a Grand Slam. Djokovic hasn't repeated that exact level of intra-year dominance, but he's refused to budge in Melbourne, making it 3 straight Aussie Open titles with his win a few months back. That was his 6th major title in as many years. So yes, you're right, the big two aren't here today. Rafael Nadal suffered a stunningly brisk first-round upset against a player ranked well outside the top 100, the first time that's ever happened to Rafa at a major. That seemed to clear the bottom half of the bracket for Federer, but then he got in similarly stunning fashion in the second round. Djokovic, meanwhile, cruised through the early rounds and survived his greatest test in the semifinal, a grueling back-and-forth 5-setter with Juan Martín del Potro. The point is, you can update your priors. This decade, the big two have made room for a third. Love that for them. Since 2010, one of Nadal, Federer, or Djokovic has won every single major except, oops, yep, just the one. The only recent break from the big 3 was Andy Murray, the other guy on your screen. But he's not some alluring young newcomer popping into the mix. Murray, from Scotland, is the same age as Djokovic, but broke through much later. On the day in 2008 when Novak won his first major in Melbourne, Murray had only a couple tour titles to his name and hadn't made it past the 4th round of a Grand Slam event. By 2011, when Djokovic was making his magical run across the majors, Murray had settled into a frustratingly consistent also-ran status. Andy won some non-major titles and ranked as high as number 2 in the world, but that wasn't enough. He needed to make himself an interruption, an oops, at least once. That pressure only intensified Murray's rivalry with Djokovic. Entering 2012, Murray had beaten Djokovic plenty of times, including the finals of big events like Miami and Cincinnati, but never in a major. Djokovic smoked Murray in the 2011 Australian Open final. Murray seriously threatened that title the following year when he held a 2-1 lead in the Melbourne semifinal, but he blew it. That's one of the most grueling, exciting matches in recent memory, and Murray had nothing to show for it. Finally, late last year, Andy's moment arrived. In the final of the US Open, Murray gritted his teeth to win an interminable first-set tiebreak, weathered a second-set comeback, and then stomached 2 consecutive lost sets to finally win in 5 over Djokovic. It was the full Novak and Andy experience. All the drama, the full roller coaster of hope and doom, Except this time, Murray outlasted his chief adversary and his own reputation. He became the lone island, in the sea of Big Three. He vanquished Novak Djokovic on the biggest stage. He became a major champion. He also ended a long major drought for British men. What an accomplishment. And because life isn't fair, the question then became, all right, what next? What about Wimbledon? This would be something else entirely. You see this grassy area over here? The crowd here explains why today could be the real make or break for Andy Murray's legacy. The Wimbledon Gentlemen's Championship has existed basically as long as tennis has existed. Since 1877, they've been playing this tournament, always here at the All England Club, and for a long time always contested and won by Brits. Gradually, non-British people worked their way into the tournament and claimed some titles. And then in the mid-1930s, English-born Fred Perry collected 3 consecutive men's single titles back for the host country. And that is it. Since 1936, a stretch encompassing the entire Open era and then some, no British man has won Wimbledon. It's not like fans of British women's tennis have had it great, but their slump registers on the order of decades, not lifetimes. Anne Hayden-Jones dominated the 1960s, and Virginia Wade won here at Wimbledon in 1977. Roger Taylor was the most successful British man at Wimbledon in the early Open era, but he never made it out of the semifinal. The 1990s brought some hope in the form of Greg Rusedski, but he never made it past the quarterfinal. Following closely behind Rusedski and eventually matching his world number 4 ranking was Tim Henman, a star out of Oxford who excelled on the grass court. Every year for a span of the late 90s and early 2000s, Henman made at least one deep run in a major. Every year, Britain rallied behind him, and every year he stopped short of even playing in a major final. The Wimbledon results were particularly brutal. In 1998, Henman made the semifinal but went down against eventual champion Pete Sampras, extending a stretch of dominance for American men. In the 99 semifinal, Henman took the first set off Sampras, then lost again. Sampras went on to make it 3 Wimbledon titles in a row. In 2000, Henman couldn't even make it that far, losing a long 4th-round match to Mark Philippoussis. 2001 presented Henman perhaps his best ever chance. Sampras went down early against some random teenager. So instead of a rematch, Henman's semifinal brought him up against wildcard Goran Ivanisevic. Over 3 days, interrupted repeatedly by rain delays, in front of teeming, frantic crowds of his countrymen, Henman worked a 2-1 lead, lost a narrow 4th set tiebreak, and then went down in 5. That marathon in 2001 represented the most famous occupation of what came to be called Henman Hill, a slope outside court number 1 here at Wimbledon, where fans without seats can congregate to watch matches on the big screen. They were here for Tim through wins and losses, rain and heat, sweating out one semifinal after another, and they got nothing to show for it. Tim Henman is a legend, and the greatest British player in recent memory, and he's around this week still basking in admiration, but he brought home 0 major titles and not even a tournament-ending appearance here beside the hill that colloquially bears his name. Henman did not answer the prayers for a homegrown Wimbledon win. And that is where Andy comes in. As Henman's career faded, people were desperate for the next great British hope. When he was still just a teenager and had hardly any accomplishments to his name, Andy was their guy. Some Wimbledon attendees started calling that grassy slope Murray Mound instead of Henman Hill, and even Andy was like, holy shit, slow down. Andy's ranking ascended, but his performance at Wimbledon proved no better than Henman's. And Andy's pride in being Scottish specifically, not necessarily British, only complicated his relationship with fans. Before long, the Murray's Mound thing sounded more like a joke than an actual honor. Until last year. Andy even advancing to the last day of the tournament made him the first British men's Wimbledon finalist since 1938, when Bunny Austin was runner-up. For a moment, it seemed like Murray might do Bunny one better. He broke Federer immediately and went on to win the first set. The stadium was buzzing. The hill or mound or whatever was quaking. Those same break opportunities materialized in the second set, but Murray couldn't seize them. Federer took it 7-5, 1 set apiece. Early in the third set, it rained. Players and fans waited, and waited and waited, and once play resumed, the match turned. Murray fell hard chasing a drop shot midway through that third set and seemed to unravel from that point on. Andy Murray went down in 4. The fans on that hill, whatever you want to call it, sighed. Their defeated hero cried. Even making the final was a monumental accomplishment, but that lost opportunity stung. It was heartbreaking. But it also wasn't the end of Murray's breakthrough last year. In August, Murray had another big moment on this very court, and he won. He defeated Federer in straight sets to take home gold in the men's tennis event of the London Olympics. It wasn't Wimbledon, but it was at Wimbledon, and it was a huge deal. Weeks later, Murray's US Open win that we talked about ended the no British men's title since Perry streak. Also a huge deal. Murray returned to Dunblane, Scotland, a hero. But as 2012 turned to 2013, the pressure resumed in a new, greater form. Murray wasn't a lovable loser anymore. He wasn't another Henman. He was a serious contender, proven capable of beating the big three. So would his legacy be that of another oops, an exception to the rule? Or could he replicate Djokovic's breakthrough within a breakthrough a few years prior? Could there be, as some had already asserted, a big four? So far, 2013 has been more of the old Andy. Australia was business as usual. Murray gave everything he had to take down Federer in the semifinal, made the final against Djokovic, won the first set, and then splat. The months since have been a bit different. Murray's had a few good tournament runs and won the Miami Masters, but then his back started to act up. Andy skipped the French Open, his first major absence in 6 years. For most of the last month, he's been rehabilitating, reconditioning, and training in the heat of Miami to prepare for the conditions of London in June. Or, said differently, forget everything else. Andy's objective this year is to bring it home. He has been laser focused on winning Wimbledon. Alongside the heat of the sun, Murray has had to face the heat of the spotlight, brighter and brighter since Federer and Nadal bowed out of this tournament. Because, yeah, as established, today isn't just about winning another major. It isn't just about raising the possibility of a big four. It's about a British man doing what Henman and company couldn't, winning Wimbledon, keeping the grass crown at home for the first time in 77 years. The slump for Scottish players at Wimbledon is even longer. Harold Mahoney won it in 1896, and they are all home watching in Dunblane. So far, so good. The first set was a straightforward Murray win, but we've seen that before. The second set brought us more of what we've seen before, namely Murray on the verge of a collapse. Djokovic broke serve first, then served with a chance to make it 5-2. Murray battled his way out of that situation with plays that made you wonder if he'd really turned a corner. Decisive, aggressive attacks like this backhand return winner and this unbelievably sick forehand winner out of nowhere, all under pressure. This time, it was Novak who sputtered. He double faulted on break point to let Murray back into the set. He biffed one into the net to let Murray pull ahead. Murray aced Djokovic to take the 2-0 lead he now holds. He has never been closer. But no one has had a chance to exhale. It just doesn't work that way for Murray, or for a Brit at Wimbledon. Andy's unforced error put him down 4-2 in this set, and the announcers could feel the fright in the air.
Well, it's all gone south, hasn't it?
Even after Murray broke back twice and pulled ahead 5-4 in this set, the terror did not subside. He's had 3 championship points in this game, and he blew them all. We've spent the last several minutes in that sickening teeter-totter ride only tennis can provide, alternating Murray chances to finish with Djokovic chances to break. This could end now, or Djokovic could claw back the momentum and, who knows, maybe drag this match out for another hour or two. Maybe drag this never-ending slump for Brits at Wimbledon into another year. The tension in here and out there is unbearable. Andy Murray and Great Britain have never been closer to one of the most emotional moments in tennis history. Backsliding from this precipice would hurt more than anything ever has. Please just finish this, Andy. Welcome to a moment in history.
The waiting is over.
6-4, 7-5.
Thanks for watching this episode of Rewinder. If you want to see all our videos without ads, plus a bunch of exclusive stuff, join these people by subscribing to Secret Base on Patreon.